It's the only certainty that we face. The feeling of belonging is something that we're all striving for. And it's one that we depend on each other for, not only for thriving, but also for surviving. I'm going to share 2 stories of belonging with you to empower you with a new power, a more inclusive power, to help you harness the power of exclusion and go from longing to belonging. One of the stories is mine, and the other one is my 10-year-old son's. Don't worry, I have his permission to share his story with you, and he's sitting right there in the audience to make sure that I don't screw this up. The P in this new power stands for pain. My son's story of longing started about a year ago when he told me that one of his friends' personality had suddenly changed and that his friend had stopped hanging out with him and another kid for no apparent reason. He also told me that his friend had started to play more aggressive sports like football rather than playing basketball with him like they normally did. And when I asked him how this made him feel, he said without hesitation, "Mommy, I feel left out." I felt his pain right away. I mean, it was way too familiar to me. But this was even more intense because this was my own child being excluded. But after thinking about it for a few moments, it didn't take me long to realize just how healthy it was for him to be able to acknowledge and share his pain with me. This is something that I know that I and countless others have struggled with. Our childhood shapes so much of who we are. My story of longing started way before that. While I was born in the United States, I was actually conceived in India by 2 very traditional parents. I grew up in a predominantly Italian neighborhood in a suburb of Chicago. We were the only Indian family. And my parents tried very hard to raise me as culturally Indian inside of our home. But I struggled because everything outside of our home was so different. And frankly, it was more aligned with my own personal values and beliefs. This duality was a defining experience for me in my childhood. When your own parents don't accept you for who you are, you grow up feeling like there's something wrong with you or believing that you just aren't good enough. I ended up feeling like I couldn't please them, myself, or anyone else for that matter. I felt like I was caught between the 2 cultures and I didn't fit in or belong to either one. I mean, they say that when it rains, it pours. And this is a fitting description to describe the events that stormed through my life. It started in elementary school, in history class. We had a session on India. And this was a subject that I was proud to know a lot about, but my pride quickly turned to anger. The textbook depicted all of the ugly parts of a country that everyone in my family before me called home. The slums, the poverty, the pollution. I mean, the only good thing depicted in the entire textbook was one picture of the Taj Mahal. And there is so much more to India than just that. I mean, even just talking about it right now, I can vividly remember feeling like a lightning bolt struck through my body in that classroom. I felt all alone in a room full of people. No one, let alone a child, should have to sit there and have one of their cultural identities being publicly trashed like that. But it was in this moment, this soul-crushing moment, that I realized and accepted the bitter reality that sometimes, no matter how hard we try to fit in or belong, we just don't. The O in this new power stands for open. I was so proud of my son for being open and vulnerable with me. When I asked him why he thought his friend was acting differently, he paused. He took a deep breath and he thought about it for a few moments. He kept an open mind and we talked about his feelings. He was able to see the big picture and empathize with his friend. This openness allowed him to refrain from rushing to judgment or becoming exclusionary himself. He also stayed open to exploring different ways to reconnect with his friend. I mean, staying open like he did isn't always so easy. I mean, more often than not, like I did, when we're being excluded, we shut ourselves off. We close out others, or we isolate, we hide, we numb, we cope, or even worse, we deny our pain for fear of further exclusion or being labeled by others as being weak. I mean, after that classroom incident, I was made fun of for weeks. As the only Indian person in the entire school, besides my brother, there was no fitting in. I felt like I had nowhere to turn. There were no resources to help me. And I didn't know how to face my pain. And I certainly didn't want anyone else to see it, especially not those that were causing it. So I did what most of us do. I locked that pain up tightly inside myself. The problem is, when you don't make time to address your emotional pain, you risk never fully addressing it, or you risk projecting it onto others, like your loved ones. I didn't confront my emotional pain until my son was born. But the moment that I laid my eyes on him, he became my anchor, and I knew that I had to face my inner storm so that I can help him face whatever storms life throws our way. So in that moment, for the very first time, I opened my heart wide open and I stepped into the darkness to face my pain. The W in this new power stands for willing. You have to be willing to build stronger connections. Every relationship is just as strong as the people in it. And the energy that we bring into those relationships impacts those bonds. My son chose to stay positive instead of focusing on the negative when he felt excluded. While he didn't have all of the information to explain the change in his friend's behavior, he was willing to give his friend some time and space to figure it out. And a couple days later, he was willing to overcome his own discomfort, to include himself. So he decided to step out of his comfort zone and play football with his friend. Well, it turns out that football wasn't as aggressive as he initially thought. I mean, they played touch football. It's like playing tag. They had a great time. And once he felt a sense of belonging, it didn't matter what sport they were playing. He was also willing to connect with others. His pain helped him identify with others who had also experienced it. He started spending more time with the other kid who was also feeling left out. They talked about how much they missed their friend together. And my son realized that he wasn't all alone in his pain. I mean, sometimes it's the things that we have in common, like our experiences, even the painful ones, that help us connect and to create and deepen our bonds with one another. It's perfectly healthy to reach out for support like my son did with me, and to take your time and go at your own pace. But your willingness to take responsibility for the experiences in your life can help you turn your suffering into your strength, your loss into your opportunity, and your longing into your belonging. The E in this new power stands for energy. Remember, true personal power comes from within. The only way to transform your pain is to work towards change within you. And as you're applying this new power framework, it's important to surround yourself with people who support you, who uplift you and who value your sacred energy. As you become more intentional with the energy that you're giving and receiving, you'll start to feel a sense of renewed energy within you. It feels like a breath of fresh air. This renewed energy will give you more meaning, more connection and belonging than you ever thought was possible. The R in this new power stands for real. I'll be honest, my journey to belonging hasn't been easy. But once I realized that my self-worth isn't contingent on anyone else's opinions, the power shifted back to me. And as I became more inclusive of me and learned to include all of the different parts of me, the real me, as I became more accepting of the real me, I found a sense of belonging inside of me. And slowly, over time, I was able to let go of the power the pain had over me. And those painful experiences of exclusion no longer consumed my life. Look, while no one ever told me to be the real me when I was growing up, when it comes to my son, I'm always going to encourage and remind him to be true to himself. And I know that this new power will keep him warm and dry when life occasionally drizzles those moments of exclusion on him that can feel bitterly cold and lonely at times. And for you, I wish the same for you, that you be true to yourself. Instead of focusing on what everybody else wants you to be, spend more of your time and energy unlocking the real you and what truly matters to you. And for those of you that are feeling like you don't fit in or belong, just know that you're not alone. Most of us have faced the same struggle. And know that there are plenty of people in this world that will accept and welcome you for the real you. You just have to move in that direction. So remember, your empowered journey to belonging starts with a single step. It starts when you take steps to be open and willing to renew the energy within you. And more importantly, to celebrate the real you. This is your true power. Thank you.